In 1588, the most powerful empire on Earth launched the largest invasion fleet the world had ever seen. Its target, a small Protestant island, and the Queen who ruled it. This is how England defeated the Spanish Armada. Hello, I'm Professor Atticus Stone. In the summer of 1588, Queen Elizabeth I faced the fight of her life. 130 Spanish ships were coming to end her reign, and what happened next became the founding legend of a naval superpower. Elizabeth was a Protestant queen. Philip II of Spain was the richest, most powerful Catholic king in the world, and he wanted England back under Catholic control. When Elizabeth executed her Catholic rival, Mary, Queen of Scots, and kept funding rebels against Spain, Philip decided the time for patience was over. He would invade. At the heart of it all was Mary, Queen of Scots. A Catholic with a claim to Elizabeth's throne, she became the focus of plot after plot to assassinate Elizabeth and put her in power. For 19 years, Elizabeth kept her imprisoned rather than kill a fellow queen. But in 1587, with the evidence damning, Elizabeth finally signed the warrant. Mary was executed, and to Catholic Europe, a rightful queen had been martyred. For Philip, it was the final push toward war. It didn't help that Elizabeth's sailors had been robbing Spain blind. Men like Francis Drake, pirates to the Spanish, heroes to the English, raided Spanish treasure ships and ports and sailed home with fortunes in stolen gold. Elizabeth took her cut and knighted Drake on the deck of his own ship. To Philip, this was the final insult. In 188, the Armada set sail, around 130 ships carrying some 30,000 men. The plan was to sail up the Channel, meet a waiting Spanish army in the Netherlands, and ferry it across to invade England. On paper, it was overwhelming. The man chosen to lead this great armada was the Duke of Medina Sidonia, a nobleman with almost no experience at sea. He wrote to King Philip begging to be excused, admitting he got seasick and knew nothing of naval warfare. Philip refused. So the largest fleet in the world sailed to conquer England under a commander who didn't want the job, following a plan that depended on everything going perfectly. England's navy was smaller, but its ships were lower, faster, and carried longer-range guns. As the Armada was sighted, legend says Drake was playing a game of bowls. Told that the Spanish had come, he supposedly replied there was time to finish the game and beat the Spanish too. True or not, it captured the English mood. The Armada sailed in a tight, disciplined crescent that was nearly impossible to break. For over a week, the English harried them up the Channel, snapping at their heels but landing no decisive blow. The Spanish pressed on and anchored off the French port of Calais to wait for their army. That pause was their undoing. At midnight, the English packed 8 old ships with tar and gunpowder, set them ablaze, and sent them drifting into the anchored Armada. Terrified of fire, the Spanish captains cut their anchor ropes and scattered into the darkness, their perfect formation shattered. At dawn, off Gravelines, the English fell on the scattered ships and pounded them for hours. Battered and low on ammunition, the Armada could no longer reach its army. Then the weather turned. Fierce winds the English called the Protestant Wind drove the fleet north, forcing it to flee home the long way, around Scotland and Ireland. Storm after storm wrecked ships on the rocks. Barely half the Armada made it back to Spain. As the danger still loomed, Elizabeth rode out to her troops at Tilbury in a silver breastplate and gave the speech of her life. She told them that though she had the body of a weak and feeble woman, she had the heart and stomach of a king of England. The invasion had failed. England was saved, and Elizabeth was a legend. England celebrated. A commemorative medal was struck with the words, "God Blue," and they were scattered. Elizabeth had a triumphant portrait painted, her hand resting on a globe, the defeated Armada behind her, a queen who now commanded the seas. The victory made England believe it could stand against any power on earth. Within a century, that small island would build the largest empire the world had ever seen. It began here in the summer of 1588. The defeat of the Armada didn't end the war with Spain. That dragged on for years. But it announced England as a rising sea power and turned Elizabeth into an icon, a small island that faced down a superpower and won. Next time, on Brick History, another impossible victory. Until then, keep your wits about you.